All right. All right, I'm going to start with this. I know you guys have been looking at the dragon painting, so I will be covering that. But but I wanted to take a look at this one. Okay. So this piece right here, um, sorry, my mouse is all ruined. I mean, my keyboard. This piece right here is beautiful. I really, really, really like looking at these silhouette paintings because there's just so much about them to enjoy. There's the lighting is sort of the front and center. When you have silhouette pieces, it's less about form and more about the light, what the light's doing to the form. So as you guys know, when you're in a shadow state, when an object is in a shadow state, it is subject to a lot of changes. Does anyone know one of the changes that an object experiences when it is in a shadow? When it's a shadow. So let's say we've got this cube and the light is shining this way. The light is behind the cube. So this part of the cube that we don't see has the bit of light in it. What happens to this side? All these sides right here. Does anyone know? Let me see official sketch what you sent me on Facebook. Because people don't send it until I started class and I can't look through, but I'm still early. So what happens to objects when they are in a shadow state? What happens to them? No light? No, it's not just that. A lot of stuff happens. Form gets lost. Why, Kuro? Why does the form get lost? That's a very general statement. Why does the form lost? They get darker. Yeah, they darken. So, silhouette, yes. Subsurface scattering, no. Not that, Brian. But thank you for your suggestion. What do you guys think it is? Desaturates and blends with the background. Something like that, Muffin Chan. What happens is you have less detail. Detail is what's missing when you do when you're in a state of silhouette, when the light is behind the object. Light reveals form. When you have no light, you have no form, and form is in the detail. The edges, being able to not blend edges on a smaller brush level, all of that is gone when you have no light. So, when we are in a state of silhouette, you artists like to do something that is very bad, which is detail. You guys over detail. It's uncanny. It looks weird because it's like the mind knows it's not supposed to be able to see this much detail, but then it's seeing it. What you have to do when you're in a silhouette state, you know that at that point it's all about the light. The light is the diva in this painting, and this character is just standing in the way. If you don't like this kind of lighting, don't use it. Because of course it's not the best kind of would you guys agree that this lighting is not good for character lineups for concept design? Of course not, because it's like you're going to have all the characters lined up and then you're just going to have their silhouettes. That gives the programmer, I mean the 3D modeler, nothing to work with. So it's not a good concept lighting. Concept lighting is best when it comes from front down at the top. So it is not good for showcasing a character. So it's clear. If it's not good for showcasing a character, if it's not good for showcasing form, it's clearly only useful for one thing. And I already said it. Can anyone else repeat it? Can anyone else repeat what I said, that what the one thing that it is good for? It was cool if the top half was in light, like a cloud has shifted or something. Well, you don't have to change the light. I'm not saying change the light source. I'm saying you have to make it about the light. So, exactly. So the silhouette happens. That's the point. So what we have to do is we have to adjust it so that the light source takes the stage. We up the contrast a little bit, because this is the only way we can really make this shadow silhouette here valid. We have to make sure the light behind is supporting that. So I'm upping the contrast just a little bit. I'm using a soft brush right now to create the bleed that happens on the edges. And this is is the only way really to make this work, is to make it all about the light. If you don't make it about the light, what will happen is that you'll have like an in-between, this like limbo of light source and object. So that's what we need to do here. To find a way to make it all about one basic light source. Yo, is this for laptop or iPad? Dragon Knot 91 this. I don't remember what you said, but I think it's cool for illustrations. Yes, Mimi. There's different kinds of artists. There's illustrators and then there's concept artists. Some you can be both, of course, but concept artists try to do their best to showcase the details as best as they can. So they have to use light-friendly, detail-friendly light sources. So bright enough, not of a particular color, no drama, no staging, just basic gray background. Set it up so that your character is visible, and you can do whatever you want with it. Or there's the illustration, the kind where you're deliberately trying to create a scene, a cinematic scene or something like that. So that's when you have to make it all about the light source. So I fixed a little bit of the anatomy that was happening. There was a bit of an anatomy problem. I fixed that up. The legs were very, very short. Try to measure the body from now on, because it'll make sure you never make the legs that short. So see how short they were? Kind of looked underdeveloped, and then I kind of lost the gesture though, but still. After we included that light, it became an environment scene. It became a real drama scene. So what I'm going to do now is give him some space behind him. Fill these areas up. Alright, and then frame it. After you do that, you've pretty much got to just do one last thing, which is the framing. It's not going to feel like a real silhouette unless there's a camera, kind of, something to introduce the edges of the canvas to us. Don't just let them hover there. It's nice when you let them kind of just blend in with the background color. Trying to carry some of that light behind him as well. Merge that down, and even at this distance we kind of see a better focus. The light actually affects the character. It's all about the silhouette. The sun is right behind him, and that's pretty much it. The light you have on the face already is really well done. I really like what you did here. You can break the rules just a little bit. The amount of kind of light rules you can break really is just a matter of how well you can eyeball it. So you can do something like that. You can get away with showing some side of the form. But there's only so much space for it. You really have to be careful not to interrupt the main diva of the painting, which is the silhouette. Thighs are still short. Yeah, they are still short. When you let the light bleed through, does the material matter? What do you mean material? The clothing? It only goes through objects that are see-through or between between objects. It doesn't really depend on material. It doesn't really depend on material in the way it behaves individually. But objects depend on light in the way they behave individually. It's kind of like light is the independent force, and we have to know which materials act with it. So if you memorize light in its truest state, that's all you need to know about light. And then after that, it's just memorizing how light acts with suede, how light acts with silk. But I'm not sure if that was your question. When you let the light bleed through, doesn't it? Like as in the clothing, skin. again, you have to understand the texture that the light is traveling on top of. If it's see-through, usually clothing has that if it's see-through. But skin acts very differently depending on the transparency or the thinness of the skin. So if light is right behind an ear, it will have subsurface scattering on it in the areas where the ear is most translucent. So it does kind of matter what the light source is. I mean, what the material is, but the light source is still going to be a silhouette. Nothing's changed about that. This little bit here is too detailed, and it's really taking away from you've got this little thing here, and you need to make it thinner or more abstract because it's really taking away from the character. You also need to show if he's standing on clouds, maybe he has a shadow, something like that. Because if it is right behind him, yeah, I don't have time to make it perfect. The legs are still very short. The head's big, that's why. So before, after. If you do want to make the lower half more foggy, less visible, then all you have to do really is just like make it seem like the cloud range has just moved from behind him. Kind of some of the light is captured on the clouds. But other than that, that's all I have to say. Remember, if it's a silhouette, keep it a silhouette. Don't confuse it with any other light source. And if you use references, it's even better. For this one, I wanted to talk about sculpting. When you do try to sculpt like this, I know you took it into color, you have to treat just because it's a face doesn't mean that it's not supposed to be treated as the sphere that it's supposed to be. So what you have to think about first, don't think about the eyes. Forget the nose, forget the eyes, forget the mouth. You have to think about the head shape first. Keep your brush large because you're thinking about the big shape. So you have to keep your brush big. And you have to sculpt it so the light from the chest is moving up. Just like this. Under the lips there is a shadow. So now you see my brush shrink because now I'm treating like the second largest objects. The nose needs to be a little bit darker the closer you get to it. There needs to be that space of darkness in between the nose. If you don't put that shadow in between the nose, then the nose doesn't do this from the side. It does this. What you want to do is put that shadow there. This shadow is this dip right here in the nose. No, she doesn't have a beard. We're still working on it. You've used way too much lights, so what you've done is you've pretty much used your trump card too early. What you have to do is stay away from the darks and the lights and work only with mid-tone so that when you do use the lights, you use them efficiently. And I'm going to erase away what I do want. I'm going to erase away this part right here. This little bit. Keep the eyes themselves also dark, the sphere of the eye. Keep it dark and then erase away only the areas that are most illuminated. Just like this. The hair is attached to the sphere, so the hair gets the same treatment. Part of it, half of it is dark, and part of it, the other half is light. Same thing with anything added to that, any accessories. Okay, so let me zoom out. I zoom in for you guys, but I shouldn't be zooming in so much. Now one last little brush over with everything. The shadow of the hair, the side of the chin. So now I can shrink my brush so now I can bring in that detail that I need. And you, the artist, feels like you're trying to model a 3D model, and that's really good. I like that attitude when in artists, but remember to think about sculpting in the way that you work with clay, not just the way you model on the computer. Sculpting is very, very different if you do it by hand than doing it on the computer. So try to experience both at the same time so they can both affect your paint and the way you choose your paint differently. And then one cast shadow that's a little sharper than the rest from the hair. Cast shadows are not contour shadows, they're much sharper. So everyone write that back to me, please. Official sketch, I don't usually get to everyone's stuff. So if I don't get to yours today, I will probably get to it next time. Okay, so let's take a look at the before and after. Well, one more thing. Just like this. So now we've sculpted a little better so that we have a more three-dimensional face because we've thought about it as a 3D object first before we thought about it as a symbol or a face. Because it is anime based, but that doesn't mean we have to start with lines. We can still sketch and sculpt the sphere of the head. And we'll get a much better read from the form this way. So before, really, really washed out. It didn't really feel, it felt very artificial and overexposed. And after, we have a bit more environment, a light environment, and cast shadows. And the head feels like more of a solid shape. I just have to clean up the background just a little bit because the soft brush menace. Okay. Always be aware of how your lines affect the way you portray edges. What does that mean? What do I mean when I say affecting the way it portrays your edges? Can anyone answer? It's quite a complicated question. What does it mean when I say don't let lines affect the way you portray edges? Clavicle looks like. Yeah, I'm not going to be looking at anatomy because there's a lot of anatomy problems here. So what I am doing is I'm just looking at the basic sculpting and form. I can't talk about anatomy and all of that just yet. Like sharp edges, if you have lines near edges, objects look flat. Don't rely on the line to do the edge. Don't let lines define your style. Dictate the form. It's okay. It's okay, Mimi. Don't sob. It's just about sculpting right now. If I did an anatomy critique, then it would be about anatomy, but I can't do that right now. But it's okay. Don't be sad about it. I do recommend style-wise to bring in the the dark of the eye. It kind of works like the dark spot. It'll work the same. It'll make it look much cuter. Keeping like the darkest dark. Just like the way we were really stingy with the way we used white. Or we're stingy with the way we use the dark here. Everything's really light gray here, so when you do bring in the black, make sure you bring it in with a small brush. Lines are symbols. They don't exist in real life. That's why you need edges. When I say, you guys kind of scratch the surface. When I say don't depend on lines to portray the way you draw the edges, is where you think a line should go, there isn't always an edge there. So in anime, what happens is we have lines everywhere. And we think that by attaching these lines or replacing them with an edge that'll still read, sometimes you have to get rid of the lines completely. So there are going to be lines that you have that can't read. One of these things is the line of the chin. There's a line here that isn't really a line in real life, it's replaced by fat. The line of the mouth, you don't just replace that, you have to make it seem like it can open and close and talk. So it's no longer a line, it's like a bunch of shades. And then there is the kind of like the ear, but I can't really see it, so I can't really cover it. So when you think about lines and you think about what they represent for you and what they symbolize in the original drawing, remember that there's going to be a great deal of them that you're not going to be using. So don't think about them as where you should go to find the line or the edge. I'm sorry. Don't think about it when you're trying to find edges as you paint. Don't ask yourself where was the line before in my line drawing, because that isn't always going to help you. See, there's the high point of her cheek right here, getting some light on it. Might not be, it might just be dark because of the shadow. I don't know. What else? There's going to be some light on this side, and this side, and then this side's going to be dark, this half of her eye, because that's kind of where the light is coming from. And then you can bring kind of as dark as that, but you can bring the dark spot in, and that won't look so dark anymore. Because that's how the light is doing it. The light is shading the inner part of her eyeball, like this. And then this side is getting the light on it, and that feels a lot more responsive to the light source. The more you let the light source govern your painting, the more realistic and pretty it can look. And that's pretty much it. Before, after. Do you guys see that beautiful kind of sculpted feel? You can pretty much apply this to anything, as long as you are careful with the whites you use, careful with the darks that you use. Used way too much white, my friend. Save. Okay, then I'm going to look at this one. Okay, so it's going to be like a stormy scene? He's like traveling through smoke, like he got into the smoke. So what I recommend mostly is like atmospheric disturbances. Atmospheric disturbances are like smoke, fog, stuff that is really there and condensed, and it doesn't really, all you have to do to make it seem like it's there is just get the soft brush or a cloud brush or something and throw it in there. So I'm seeing like smoke, so I'm going to choose the actual color of the smoke. Can I try to gray it out a little bit? And that's what I'm going to throw in over the foreground. And that's kind of what I want to see, maybe a little bit lighter in value because the light is shining. And that's kind of what I feel like we need to be seeing in the foreground. It was a little bit saturated for foreground. And that'll make it seem like he's really part of the disturbance happening in the lower right, which is like the fire or whatever. You kind of probably want to make those embers a bit brighter. So you put this layer behind the embers, okay, Oreo? Okay? So the embers are behind, because they're going to shine through, so the layer should be in front. The smoke is going to be behind the embers. As for color correction, the colors are perfect. I feel like you can use a little bit more shadow on the outer sides of everything. So I feel like it's kind of like sunset hour. Kind of reading a sunset hour. So you want to make deeper shadows on the form as you move back. Also, he's got lots of artifacts on him that can fly away, and this dragon feels like it's like flying upward first. You know how like dragons hover up and then they go forward? Well, this person seems like he's sitting on the dragon, standing on the dragon while it's flying up, and I'm sure there's going to be some air disturbance as well. So what you want to do to make this object here less like a toy soldier that he managed to stick onto his back and more of a real person, you want to give them some disturbances. So stuff that is lighter than other material that's lighter than other material should behave that way. So we should be seeing like crazy kind of asymmetrical movement in the fabrics. We should be seeing, like I showed you before, a more like a momentum ready kind of position. He's kind of ready to take the blow, or he's trying to balance, or he's trying to deal with the force of the upward movement of the dragon. So he's trying to balance as well as deal with the blow of the, I guess I don't know what to call it, like when you're on a roller coaster and you get moved around. What else did I recommend before? Colors are perfect, by the way. Again, the larger the object, the larger the shadows it has. So there's going to be parts here that you might want to shade a little bit more sharply. So what I mean is this entire back half here could be a little bit darker. And then we've got the highlights. Flatten image. So the highlights all have to be pointing to the light source. So everywhere else is going to be pointing to the light source. As for this cobblestone kind of texture you have here, be careful with that. It doesn't always read. It's not going to read as scales. It reads more as an actual cobblestone. It reads like, because it's be careful when you guys use texture overlays that are perpendicular, that are just like a grid, because it's so hard. This actually starts to work like a grid line. Like, you know, when you have 3D modeling and you design like an orange and you have its grid lines on it, when you use texture overlays that have grid lines like you have here with this cobblestone, it starts to read as the actual grid lines on the character. And so this is very flat. This isn't really morphed enough. You need to morph it a little bit more to show that this dragon's head is actually a cylinder. So you didn't move them around a cylinder. They should be doing something like this. Are you understanding me, Oreo? So when you do throw the overlays in, be careful with that. Not only is the pattern non-organic, this is a very geometric pattern. You don't find this on animals a lot. You find stuff more that looks like, that's a little bit more randomized, especially if it's a dragon or a lizard. So look up actual patterns, scale patterns on lizards. Don't bring in something geometric. I talked a lot about before in my previous videos the difference between organic and geometric. Patterns that you have to teach your hand behavior to memorize. It's just texture behavior rules. So this, I would just smudge it completely. Just like this. It's a little smudged now because there's no detail. I'll try to resharpen what I did. So again, the head is a cylinder. But the overlay texture was like as if it was flat, as if it wasn't a cylinder, as if it was rectangular, and it was like this instead. Now it could be like that. The dragon could be shaped like that, but it doesn't really make sense for the anatomy or the structure. So if we were to spiral, it would feel more natural if it was a cylinder. And for the helmet, if he is facing a sort of sunset scene, he could be, what I could recommend is, he could be in between a shadow. So if I was the photographer and I was trying to capture this guy and I was on the dragon beside him and I had my camera, I'd probably take the picture at the moment, the perfect moment when the light and when the dragon rider and the dragon are halfway in between a cast shadow. So color dodge, oops, select inverse. I'm going to choose the sunset color. So you might want to do this because it's going to bring in a beautiful level of drama. Maybe he just, maybe the cast shadow is cast by the town that's burning or something. But a little something like that might do the trick. Filter, blur, gosh. Like, of course, this is very rough. You don't actually do it this way. Find the way that this cast shadow actually sits on these characters. Running a light like that right over isn't going to help. The reason why this part here works because there's smoke. The smoke is capturing that light. But this light only sits on the front of any 3D object. So it's going to sit on the front of every horn. Anything that faces that light, that's where that is going to sit. Only the front of his helmet. Anything else is going to be dark because he's just risen above the maybe you can like use something more cool instead of a warm light. And then flatten. And then because the dragon is the center of the spiral, what happens is that he has to have a little bit more contrast to him. And that fire palette, the oranges and the yellows, it has to be a little bit more focused and readable on him. It's reflecting off whatever's coming down here, and because it's reflecting on him, it's also beneath him as well. It's not going to be beneath him like that. Color dodge, maybe. It'll also help to sort of make that seem a little bit more valid. So I'm going to flatten this, take it back to the before, and then erase away areas that are supposed to be in front. So this winged area is supposed to be in front of any of that. And erase this little dude. Filter, no, I gotta erase it. Just like that, soften that up. Soften that up. And then continue that shine. So it's not much, but it's environmental. Do you see the difference? Is about layering, making sure the foreground isn't in the same layer as the light. So it really gave some space, as if they really are in a bunch of smoke and air and all these environmental factors. Also, please don't forget that his shirt will move around. And if he is in some sort of light, the light is on him, so you have a chance to detail his face, his body. Like that. Bringing in more abs and what have you. Detail on the armor or whatever. So does everyone understand what I am talking about? One more before and after. Before, after. The dragon is stood. Oh, he's standing. It doesn't feel like he is. Where you have to prove that. Why is the camera so close up? This is bad camera work then. If the camera was this close to him while he was standing, we want to see him shown off. We want to kind of show him off. So does anyone have any questions? How can I make it feel like that? You make it feel like he's standing by showing us that he's standing. Zoom out a little bit. To me, it felt like he was flying because you don't get a mountain range that this high, like on the camera. Like it kind of feels like the camera is really high because this is almost a bird's eye view. So I feel like he's either on a really, really high mountain and he's kind of standing there with the guy on him. And he's got his legs and he's got his mouth. And then he's got his tail, but why not? Why not zoom out this far so you can show him? Why zoomed in this much if you're supposed to be showing him off standing and getting ready to pounce or jump down. Okay? Yeah, me too, Oriana. I thought he was flying as well because the fire is coming from below him. Embers, smoke, the wind is blowing really, really bad on this. So it kind of felt like he was high in the sky. Okie dokie, everybody. Is that the only way? Kinda, yeah. Or else it'll just be really bad camera work. As an artist, you don't just draw whatever you want in a cube and then it just works because you did it good. There's a lot of cinematics that goes into filling a canvas up. Everybody repeat what I just said back to me. Yeah, me too, Wilhelm. It was because of the zoom and because of the position of the dragon too for me and everything coming from below. That he feels like he is flying. Also, the gesture was a bit off for a flying dragon too. His head needs to be a little bit lower and his body higher. Because the wings really carry the body and the head just hangs along. Consider cinematics. There's a lot of cinematics in terms of filling a canvas, yes. When it comes to illustrations, yes. Cinematics need to be considered. There are a lot of cinematics that go into being an artist to have good composition. Yes, Oriana. Don't just draw on the canvas without thinking of cinematics. At Istebrak, Ozdemir says, what's the story behind your Twitch name? It's just my name. It's Istebrak. So we have some time. That just reminds me, do you guys want to do a Q&A? Because I need to do one of these soon. I don't do them enough. So you guys can pretty much ask me anything. It doesn't have to be related to the topics we did today. So we'll do that real quick, get that out of the way, and then we'll post some links. I'll look at the portraiture next time. I didn't really want to focus on portraiture. We're always on portraiture. I promise, though, anyone who submitted some portraiture, I will look at it. But for now, anyone can ask me anything. Yeah, I think you can add more canvas space, Oreo. You don't have to redo the whole painting. Yeah, I know, Kitty. Time flies, right? Associated Press photographs are great references for this example, Istebrak. Yes, I agree. Cool. Did you do a sketchbook at school? Can we see it if you did? I have like 1,000 sketchbooks I did when I was in school. I didn't go to art school. Before any of you asked that I go to school for art, I didn't. I just had sketchbooks that I drew on. So I have to be doing a video for that soon. I have to find my tripod and set up my camera, and I'll go through like all my stupid drawings when I was a kid and post that up. I think you guys will have a laugh at that. Anything else? You're so bad at filling up your sketchbooks. You just have to not think of it as a constricting thing. I mean, a sketchbook doesn't have to be, a perfect drawings only place. If you guys are looking for masterpieces, nothing is ever going to come out. It's like, okay, I can't do that example because it's too inappropriate. But don't force it because it won't come out. Just try to enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Okay, what tablet are you using? I'm using a Wacom Intuos Pro. Intuos 5 Pro. It's a pain in the butt. The drivers are all fucking stupid. I have a silly question. Feel free to ignore it. I'd like to know what you would recommend an artist to do if he wants to get into freelance illustration. Brian Das. You're not going to get hired soon, by the way, Brian. No one is. No one's going to get hired before they, just suddenly. You guys say, okay, I want to be an illustrator. All right, someone eventually is going to hire me. Someone eventually is going to email me and say, hey, come work with me. That's not going to happen for you guys. What is going to happen is that maybe eventually you will start to get more and more notice, and then you'll build your portfolio towards that. So if you want that to happen faster, Brian, what I recommend, start hiring yourself. Build your portfolio for the people who you want to hire you, even if they haven't hired you yet, even if you haven't applied yet. Build the portfolio as if there's always someone reviewing it. So build character design, build creature design, build some item design, all that stuff. There's always someone out there who needs that crap. Um, build, make sure that you're not always trying to do a masterpiece. So show off your sketches. People want to see that you can do a quick sketch for them, real quick so they can hire you for like simple pre-production stuff. So think which part of the production process you want to be in as an illustrator. You want to be in pre-production, you want to be in post-production, you want to be, not production, post-filming. You want to be, it depends really what kind of project it is, but build your portfolio as if you're going to be hired tomorrow for it. Do you know what I mean? Build it as if you know that you're building it toward the audience that you want to hire you. Okay. How often do you draw and for how long? It depends, Dragonaut. I sometimes draw in Photoshop and I draw until I'm finished the sketch or the painting, and sometimes just sketch. By sketchbook, I'm sometimes sitting there for 2 hours, maybe just sketching something or completing it. I sometimes sketch when I watch TV, just to keep my mind around it. And I sketch a lot, and I'm always drawing when I'm teaching, because I have to be doing the paint over for me to give out a good lesson. So I'm always, and then I teach like a lot. What do I think of Filthy Frank? I think he's amazing, and I want to marry him. Actually, I can't do that, but I think he's awesome, and I wish he was my neighbor. He's so cool and weird and different, and really refreshing. My favorite video of his is the Weeaboo video. Istebrak, do you think it's better to start traditional or digital? It doesn't matter. The rules are the same. It doesn't matter which technique you use them on. It's like saying I want to build a grave. All I have is a spoon and I have a shovel, and I have a big spoon and a shovel. It doesn't matter. You're going to be digging the grave. So I shouldn't be I shouldn't make art and illustration synonymous with digging a grave. Bullshit. But still, it doesn't matter what tool you use. The point is that you have to learn the fundamentals behind it. I've been wanting to draw a scene in an asylum room for a while now with a boy curled up in a corner, but I'm still trying to figure out what color palette I should use. I kind of want it to be creepy, so with some darkness, but I also want those bright white neon light reflecting on the white walls and hurting the eye. Any idea for how I could mix that? Keep the base tones Pixie Wolf blue and cool, and the only parts that are warm are the light shining in, the cast lights shining in through like a window. So make it an orange on blue. Have I ever used the 3D modeling program? I've played around with it. I've never used it. What's my league name? My league name, Kid Link, is Istebrak, the same Twitch name. Istebrak, do you watch H3H3? No. Where he's like, if you're gonna swear, at least swear in Japanese. That's darkest. I know, Nutrim. I know. Just let it go. Sometimes I feel like digging my own grave. But comparing it to digging grave makes so much more sense than anything else I've ever heard. Oh man, I don't know. I shouldn't have done that. It was subconscious, wasn't it? It was like one of those Freudian slips. Okay, any questions illustration questions? Pixie Wolf says, "How is Ossie?" Ossie is great. She's doing well. We went to Canada, and when we came back, it was like I never left. The little punk didn't even greet me. If it was a dog, she would have jumped on me and eaten my face with kisses, but whatever. It's a cat. Cats don't give a shit about you. Even if you are allergic to them, she doesn't even care. She doesn't even know I'm talking to her. If I am doing concept art for self-design brief, should I focus on illustration side or show off characters? If I'm doing concept art for self-design brief, should I focus on illustration side or show off your characters? Concept art is conceptualizing written descriptions into visual representation of the written description. Illustration isn't what they're looking for. They're looking for concept. They're looking for how you can conceptualize and add to with your own visual library to that description. So if they're asking for a ninja assassin, but in the Middle East or something like that, then you have to like dress him up in a way that matches the description, but also shows that you have some level of design thinking as well. So show off your design. You're not going to be able to showcase lots of design and lots of experimentation with costumes, lots of experimentation with poses and gestures if the only time you're going to draw that character is in an illustration. No, keep the gray background and then just experiment and explore. And exploring and experimentation is very safe when you're thinking about concept art and showing off characters. Don't try to do illustrations. Stay away from the masterpieces. Even when you work for people, stay the hell away from masterpieces. They're never going to pay you enough for it. Catero asks the best question so far. What shampoo do I use and does it help me draw anime? I'm going to try to answer that question. I use a very basic conditioner and 2-in-1 because I don't have the fucking time to condition my hair and shampoo it. And when my hair acts all nice and settled and I feel like really pretty and I put my makeup on, I do feel like I am in the mood to draw some anime. So yes, shampoo can help you draw better anime. You beat me to it. Was just gonna ask, what kind of music do you listen to when drawing? Mostly soundtracks. I don't like music with lyrics in it. It kind of stands in the way of me thinking and trying to narrate my drawing process. I usually try to narrate myself through like the toughness of the painting. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, shit, what do I do next? I try to narrate it in my head what to do next. It's part of my technique. Handsome answer, thank you. I think we're going to be closing it up today. Soundtracks are great. Biggest influences in art for you? I wasn't one artist because I didn't have a computer growing up. It's not like today when everyone knows who Craig Mullins is. For me, it was anime shows, cartoon shows, the TV. The TV influenced the way I drew a lot. Anime started out as anime, and then I started wanting to illustrate and draw that stuff that I saw in those World of Warcraft guidebooks. And then I really started to explore with shading, and it was all media. Media influenced me the most with my drawing. Craig Mullins can suck my balls. What do you get when you remove the study from a form study? You get form. No. When I say form study, when you guys do form studies, when I say form study, I mean you're studying form for form's sake. You're not really drawing any one. It's a nondescript object that helps you explore form without the label. So a form study can be anything as long as you're not labeling it because you don't want to accidentally stumble into the symbol. Mimi, you can email me if you want to begin the mentoring. So let me close off today by posting some links for you guys. So the most important kind of link to post tonight, the one that I really want you guys to remember, if you remember any link that I've posted, is the Google community post. It's amazing. Everyone's trying the 14-day challenge. I can't believe it. And y'all are doing so good. Let me show off for a second. Community. Look at this stuff. Look at these amazing artists. People drawing some noses. People experimenting with color. 14-day challenge, 14-day challenge. Some people are on like their 8th day, 7th day. Love seeing the day ones because I know they're just going to get like so much that's going to change completely and they're just going to keep developing. Lots of portraiture, and it's really good to see people taking on portraiture because it's so difficult and it's such a pain in the butt for an artist to, every artist has to figure out how to draw a face, and it's just something we all have to do, and everyone taking it and really experimenting and exploring that difficult topic in art is I'm very proud of you guys. And that's it. Thanks everyone for coming. Have a great day. Bye bye.